Okay. Oh, I hope Taylor can jump on. I know she said she had family in town, but I hope she gets a chance to jump on. But Taylor probably is pretty familiar with the law of magnetism because she had prepared to lead on it last week, and then we didn't get all the way through it, so it's not a terrible week to miss. So back in the law of magnetism, we got as far as talking about she brought up the question, what do we look for in like a dream team person, right? Mm-hmm. And a lot of you highlighted character, that you really you're looking for someone with like unshakable character. Which I think is very important to me too, but I think in my mind it's kind of a given. Like, maybe that's why I didn't mention it, because in my mind I'm like, it's a given that I want them to have strong character. And I'm what I find more rare, and maybe that's it too, is I feel like a lot of people in my life have very strong character, the people I choose to surround myself by. And what I feel like is harder to come by is people who have the energy and attitude that I'm looking for. Because I feel like so much of what attracts people to Plexus is when you have that contagious energy. And I always bring up Tamara as my example, because she makes everybody she's talking to feel like they're just like the most interesting, person ever. And she makes everything she's talking about sound like the most interesting thing ever. And I know that that's just part of who she is. But anyway, I feel like that kind of energy and that kind of attitude is what I'm always wanting in a dream team person. And those are some of the things he talks about. But he also says we generally are attracted to people who are from our same generation, which I can say has probably been true for us in Plexus. Most of the people on our team are generationally about our same age, and then as the people who get brought in from other generations are usually brought in by someone of their kind. Like someone recruits their mom, and then mom brings in a bunch of people from her generation, and that's how our team has branched out of this millennial age group. But he brings up generation, attitude, background, values, energy, giftedness, and leadership ability. And those are kind of the main areas of who we are that we tend to attract the same in other people. So I guess what I want to discuss is, are there any of those where you sort of wish that you attracted people of a higher quality, not higher quality, but if you look at those, are there any of them where you're like, man, I wish I attracted people who were better, like had higher energy than me, or were better leaders than me? Because I think those are the ones that are going to, if we can identify those, then we're identifying where we need to grow. Mm-hmm. We all have really strong values, so I don't think any of us is like, I wish I could find someone who's like a better person, than me. I don't think that'll be the answer for anyone, but because, what he says is you have to, if you want to attract, since like attracts like, and since we attract who we are, then when we list out what we want in a dream teamer, then it basically is showing us a mirror of what how we need to grow if we're going to attract people like that. So my question is, I guess, what things would you list as like, man, if I could find a dream team person, they would be this, this, and this. And then which of those things do you see and go, I don't have that. I need to grow in that in order to start attracting that.
I feel like giftedness is kind of a big word. Like a lot can fit into that category. So that's kind of the first thing I think of, because I think of, like, one thing I added a lot more to my list since our last talk about people. My people would have these qualities, and even like quality is not necessarily about their character, but just about their situation or their experience. But like I said, an attraction buff. I don't know how to give the term to that, but basically like they are naturally good at the attraction marketing, where like they can take appealing pictures, and whatever they do in life, they can make it look so kind of like your that call that you did that was like stop what was it?
Stop selling and start inspiring.
Yeah. Just how people see that these glimpses of your life and they're like automatically attracted to you just because of the quality of the things that you share and the pictures and things. And it's like I acknowledge the significance of that, but rarely do I like want to put on makeup or use a better camera to film a video or go through using this app to make this graphic look a lot nicer than the corporate one that they send to us, or things like that. So I said like an attraction buff, and then I said somebody who is resourceful and a problem solver, and somebody who's a doer, like the law of process kind of thing. And as I was doing it, I was very much realizing the reason I want these things is because I'm not good at them, or like, which is going to be so much harder for me to attract those kinds of people if I acknowledge myself that I don't have those things, or that those are my weak points and stuff.
Yeah.
But I feel like giftedness. Well, can you phrase your original question again?
No, that's the way you answered is right. Like within these categories, where were there things that you identified that you're not attracting people with those certain areas of whatever that you want, because you're not necessarily displaying those qualities.
Yeah. And I feel like values and attitude and generation, I feel like a lot of that stuff ends up being kind of like you said, implied. If I'm going to reach out to them, then a lot of that is already there. Or you know. But that was one where I could see differences and identify things I need to develop in myself.
Yeah, that's a good one. And it's interesting how he applies it, because he says there are two ways to take it. Based on who you're attracting, you may need to grow in those areas, and you may need to work at staffing your weaknesses and recruiting people who will complement your leadership in your area. So I guess he's not saying that you have to be perfect at everything.
Right, yeah.
But I guess he's really just stating a law. Like, if you wish that you attracted those people who had amazing attraction marketing skills and, just knew how to put it out there in a way that was appealing, then if they're out there, whose team are they going to want to be on? They're probably going to want to go be on Bridge Orion's team. They're probably not going to be like, oh, I want to be on so-and-so's team. That's who they're going to be attracted to. So I guess he's not trying to, I don't think he's trying to say you have to do everything perfectly, but he's just kind of making us aware. If this is who I want to attract, this is how you attract people. You attract people who are like you.
Yeah, he said attracting people unlike yourself requires a high degree of intensity. To succeed at it, people must believe in you, and the vision you share must be compelling. You can learn more about that in the law of buy-in.
In the law of what?
Buy-in.
Buy-in. Okay, so we'll do that later.
But
I remember highlighting that too.
I think we have different books. Mine's at the bottom of 109, though.
Okay.
Going against the grain.
Okay. But yeah, where he says it's going to take a lot of intentionality to attract people who are not like you.
Yeah, more naturally, people who are like you will be attracted to you.
Yes. So I think it's really eye-opening. And this has been the number one thing that I've turned to the law of magnetism for any teammate who says, I am having trouble bringing business builders into my organization. I'm not attracting business builders. The law of magnetism is usually the biggest culprit. And so I'll ask, are you sharing about the business? Are you posting about the business? Are you reaching out about the business? And 9 times out of 10, those are people that are only sharing about the products. And so they're attracting customers and wholesale buyers, because no business builder is looking at somebody who only shares about the products and saying that person is going to help me reach my financial dreams. You know, they're looking at the people who are sharing about the business. We've had some good eye-opening conversations. So I did a call on this with a few of Jana's people on her team who have said, I'm struggling with bringing business builders in. We did a call about this. And we talked about how you have to be sharing about the business, reaching out about the business, posting about the business. But that doesn't mean that those posts have to be geared towards reds. You know, when we try to attract a red, we're targeting that goal-setting, disciplined, rewards-based personality. But we can share about the business and still be posting and reaching out to greens and yellows and blues. And that's by saying, like, man, one of my favorite things about my job is I get to go to lunch with my friends, and it's a business expense. Or trying to think of some of the other examples, like
helping people.
Right. Yeah, exactly. You get the idea. But just that sharing about the business doesn't mean we're only sharing for reds.
I really struggle with that. I used to struggle with posting about the business. I kind of got over that. But reaching to people about the business. I mean, like Jenna, she's my big business builder. And I even asked her, I was like, if someone were just to reach out about the business to you, you know, she would have just turned her head. Like, I think most people would, it was having the product and seeing the difference. So it's almost like, do you want them to, because if they don't love the products, they're not going to do the business. I mean, there are those who go join just for the business and then like the product after, but I feel like those are more rare and few between. So I kind of struggle with going to someone directly about the business without the product first.
Yeah, totally. I think you're right. I think a much larger percentage of people, even those who end up really successful in the business, start for the products. And there are some that do it, that start it for a business opportunity. And I guess we have to have our eyes open for those people that are looking for an opportunity. And we have to be willing to point out the gifts we see, even in the people who we know are just interested in the products. Were you going to say something, Mel?
Oh, I was just saying I was the person who joined for the business.
Yeah, Mallory did. And that's because you saw me and Jessica sharing a lot about the business and about the flexibility of it. And
right.
And you knew enough about the products to know it was something you could be on board with.
Right, of course.
Yeah.
Right.
Well,
so they're out there, and there's like diamond documentaries and stuff of it too.
Yeah.
But I don't know. Like it makes me nervous to reach out to someone about the business before the product. Posting about it, I don't know. I don't know. Chris is your sister, so I'm sure.
Yeah, we talked about it a lot. Like when she was involved in it, I was like, well, I want to be like involved in this thing in her life, but I don't really like it. But I'll ask her about it.
Yeah.
You know, and so then she would tell me something, and I would just sit and think about it. And then later on, we got to a point when our finances where I was like, "Babes, what if I did Plexus?" You know, and here we are.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and a lot of people I reached to about the business ended up joining for the products. Like Jana is a good example. Like my first month in the company, I was like, man, I think you'd be great at this. She turned me down. And when she finally came around, it was for the products. But because I had really diligently tried to build belief into her that she would succeed at the business and that the business was good. Because like, for instance, she had a blog at the time, and she had done a post about Jamberry nails, and she had titled it like, "This is an unbiased review of Jamberry nails." And as soon as I saw that, I messaged her privately and I said, I feel like even if you had a biased review of Jamberry nails, the people that know you ought to believe that you're being honest. Like I was just kind of starting that conversation and being like, there's nothing wrong with earning money selling a product you believe in. And if you're a good person, there's no reason for people to mistrust your review of that product. And just, I was telling her stuff like that, like, because she had had a few people comment and be like, man, it's just so nice that you're giving an unbiased review. And I just was like, hang on a minute. Like, either Jana has integrity or she doesn't. And either she's going to say the nails are good and you believe her or not. Anyway, we had conversations like that whole year. The whole year that I had no idea she was like sitting on it and thinking about it. I was having conversations with her about why it was a legitimate business model and why she would succeed. So when she broke down and decided to, it was because she was like desperate for her milk supply to go up. But I think just the conversations and the posts and all of that, like, it was just planting seeds.
So your original, okay, that's something else I struggle with. Okay, for instance, I just started an Instagram account this past week. I'm slow to get on the bus, but I started one. Mm-hmm. And I've been getting followers, randoms, like complete randoms. I've kind of tried to focus it a little bit more on that, actually, and not as many people as like I already have on Facebook, but new people. And some of them, I'm like looking at their Instagrams, and I'm like, you would be awesome at this, like just like looking at it. But I'm like, how do you go about, I mean, just like liking, commenting, at what point do you message? I mean, this is like complete randoms. Like, I was looking at someone today in California. We have no connection other than we're following each other.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? And then the very next chapter in this is talking about how you have to reach their heart before,
yeah,
you know, like, so
absolutely.
I'm struggling with, I guess, because even with Jana, I feel like you probably either reconnected with her or had already a pretty good connection with her before you were like, hey, have you thought about this business? And then she's like, no. And then you're randomly just kind of going in every once in a while, how you doing, like just keeping that connection going. I mean, that's what I'm feeling like. Really fun.
You're spot on with that. And you remember our call with Tamara the other night and how long she has cultivated those baby center relationships before ever even friending them on Facebook. You know, like they're in these groups on Facebook. Mel, did you watch that recording yet?
Yeah.
Just Tamara talking about how long she cultivates a connection with people. And then when she sees their why or sees their need, she reaches out and says, can I share Plexus with you? It's really blessed me. I mean, who knows if it could bless you, but can I share it with you? But yeah, I think you're spot on with being strategic about.
And I used to, I think I messed up a lot in the beginning because I watched a video that Jessica did. And not that this wasn't good either, because I mean, I had some good coming out of this too, but I feel like it messed me up a lot too, where she was like, if anyone likes or comments, and so I don't know how to address this now. If anyone likes or comments on a post, just send them a quick message and say, hey, you know, thanks for liking my post, you know, it's about Plexus. So I did that a ton, but that also, I think, shut a lot of people off because that was like my first interaction with them in forever.
Yeah.
And it was just because they liked to post. They probably just saw on their feed and liked. I don't know. So I don't know. I'm struggling with that, I guess.
That's why over time I've just said like, thanks for your support. And then I feel like that encourages them to keep liking instead of like, oh no, now I shouldn't have liked.
Right. And I have an example of that. Chris, so you remember Stephanie Ertman, our neighbor in St. Louis? So she liked a post recently, and I haven't talked to her since I was like 9. And so I just said, thank you so much for liking my posts. I appreciate that support. How have you been? It's been forever. Like, I used it as a reason to start the conversation, but just to start making a connection. Because then if she ends up wanting to talk to me about it, she won't feel weird starting a conversation. I've at least put it out there. And
exactly.
Whatever the reason was.
Yeah.
Weird.
I think people feel just as weird coming to you and going, hey, I know we haven't talked in 20 years, but I'm struggling with anxiety and depression. And I mean, I think that that's really hard to do. Because I had a person come to me from my elementary school who struggles with anxiety and depression, and she was wanting more information about Plexus, and you could tell she just felt really awkward even talking to me about it because we haven't really connected. So I've been doing that follow-up, not just with Plexus posts, but with any post. If anytime I post, someone from the past shows up and likes it, I reach out and I'm like, what? It was so good to see your name on my feed. How have you been doing? And I use it as a reason to connect. And then we just have a conversation that's already kind of going.
Yeah.
But let's segue into the law of connection since you kind of
talk about it.
Sorry, I hope that
that's great, and I think we've gone plenty over the law of magnetism. So the law of connection just makes total sense. And that it's kind of an art rather than a science. It's kind of instinctual rather than here's a step-by-step process. I did like this quote. He says, if you want someone on your side, don't try to convince him, connect with him. And that resonated with me probably because I have a strong personality and I tend to feel like if I can gather enough evidence, I can convince people that I'm right. But so often it does not matter if you have evidence to support you. It matters that you can connect with somebody. And that is absolutely what I found to be true in the beginning when I started this journey, and I anticipated having a lot of, Mallory doesn't like when I call them haters, but I truly don't know what else to say. Like, I anticipated that I would have a lot of opposers. And I had so many reasons to give them why these products were safe and why this business model was good and why it was really helping people. And no one really wanted to know that. And what I found to be the most successful was this totally opposite method where I would just, what I did with my family, where we sat down at Christmas and I said, look, guys, if you never try the products and if you never join my team, I understand, but if you can at least be in my corner, cheering me on, high-fiving me, proud of me, that would mean the world to me, and that's all I ask. And I felt like that connecting rather than convincing ended up completely, it just completely brought the walls down. Enough to where Mallory eventually even joined my team, but I felt like it was kind of like an aha moment, and I've trained so many teammates to do the same. And if they're afraid that their family is going to be awkward around them, or they're afraid that their best friend is going to be awkward if they bring up Plexus, just go to that person and say, look, I don't care, I don't care if you ever join my team or use the products. Of course, I would love for you to, because I believe they would help you. What kind of a hypocrite would I be if I were sharing about this if I didn't believe it would help you? Like, of course, I believe it's a good thing. But if all you ever do is support me, high-five me, cheer me on, like, that's all I need from you. And then that connection does more convincing than the convincing ever could, because all of a sudden they're like, well, I want to support her, so of course I'm going to read her posts. Or I want to support her, so of course I'm going to say good job when she goes silver or gold. Everyone's nodding, so I'm assuming everybody gets it.
Yeah.
So definitely love that. Don't try to convince them.
Sonia Dudley says, right? Sonia Dudley has made videos about connect versus convince.
And hers are a lot about hers are a lot of examples of what she says when she's talking to someone at the store. And someone is saying like, yeah, I have diabetes. And she says, she doesn't say like, I have something that helps with diabetes. It's taking that time for empathy and saying like, oh my goodness, how long have you had that? And asking those questions that actually show it that you care, which is exactly what he says. So would anyone else like to point out a section or a quote that you loved?
I did feel like there were a lot of phrases from this chapter specifically that I've heard from Plexus people, like connecting versus convincing. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care.
Yep.
Even the, what was the last one? Oh, like the hope dealer.
Yeah.
That came from Napoleon Bonaparte. What?
I reckon. Too.
We conveniently leave him out of the credit for that.
Yeah, exactly. So I could see a lot of the fingerprints of our leaders in this chapter.
Mm-hmm.
But it just,
I
feel like this was similar. Which law was it? The one that was like, listen, learn, and then lead.
Yeah.
I feel like this was similar, where it was saying like,
respect. Was that respect?
Maybe that was it, but it was like, you gain credibility when you do this.
Yeah.
By starting there instead of convincing, by trying to make the connection. So it just, again, reiterate, like I was thinking today, what my post would be on my team page that was, okay, how am I going to try to get to know my team better today, or learn something about them that I didn't know.
One, speaking of like things you've heard often, something that I've said often and didn't know it was in this book, but I've tried to, when I train people to make a video, I'll always say, like, picture the face of someone who loves you and just talk to them and don't talk to 1,000 people, because people don't translate well when they think they're talking to 100 people on a video. They come across really bad. But I think if you're sitting there picturing your best friend, it comes across more natural. And he says that in this chapter. He says, when he speaks in front of large groups, his secret for connecting is simple. I don't try to talk to the thousands. I focus on talking to one person. That's the only way to connect with people. It's the same when I write a book. I don't think of millions of people who will read it. I think of you. I believe if I can connect with you as an individual, what I have to offer might be able to help you. So I liked that a lot. Okay, what in these 8, whatever he calls them, ways of connecting, he calls them something. Let's see. Keys to connection. So 8 ways of connecting. Which of those is hard? Which of those is a struggle? If any.
I felt like my biggest struggle, at least at this point in my business, is number 7, believing in my team. And I'll be the first to admit that some of that a lot of that is mindset and me telling myself that they don't care or whatever. And I'm getting back into this one. So I know that is an issue of mine, and that I'm kind of stunting myself by believing some of that. And so again, and that's why I was like, what can I do to convey to my team that I want to connect with them and get to know them better, so that I am communicating that they have value to me. And that will, and like, it's just like goes back and forth. I'm communicating that to them, and then they tell me something that makes me believe in them even more because of what they shared or stuff like that. I just find myself making assumptions based on what I've seen or haven't seen from people, and I don't really believe in them. And I think that is not what you want a leader to do.
Yeah. I think that's my struggle too. And I've gotten better at it since I've changed my self-talk quite a bit. But, you know, any new person coming in, I want to believe in them. But I know that at any point along the road, they could decide, this is too hard, I give up. You know, so I think 7 was one for me too. And then I think a lot of people struggle with number 1, where he said, people don't heed the call of an uncertain trumpet. How many people, I just see so many people make their first post and they're like, if anyone wants to try this, just let me know. Like, why would they want to? You know, that you sound like a very uncertain trumpet out there. Yeah.
Do you guys have the 8 keys of connection in your book version? Yeah. Okay, just making sure.
Yeah. Good.
The number 5, the go to where they are, is that it reminded me of what Tamara was saying, of recognizing the personality, and like that person that took her 3 years to get on her team, just recognizing that personality and going with it and not freaking
adapting.
Adapting. Yeah.
That's hard.
Yeah. You wouldn't know because Tamara is so sweet, but she is very aggressive. Like she said, which was funny to me because you wouldn't know it, but it's true.
As I adapt to others, I don't expect them to adapt to me.
Yeah. That's harder for some personalities than others. It's very hard for my husband to adapt to people's personalities.
I think it is for mine too, actually, for my husband. He's very like red. He's very red. And so he's like, just do it.
Yeah, deal with me. Here I am.
And I'm like, whoa. So tell that to some people and they'll be bad.
But I think on the whole, these keys of connection, I think all of you and all our team, I think are gifted in these. Like I would not say that most of them are a struggle. The one I see as a struggle a lot is 1 and probably 7. So yeah, loved the okay. The section where they talk about the guy, the Southwest Airlines leader, and how much his employees loved him and how they each felt like they had a personal connection with him. This section was convicting for me because as I've grown in my business, events have changed. Like I remember my first convention and it was me, McKenna, Sunny, and Lorelei in a room. And we didn't know anyone else other than our uplines. And it was like the most fun getaway with the girls. And like the events have really changed because I feel a strong sense of responsibility and need to connect with anybody who came to that event who is on my team. Because I'm just so aware that it's a sacrifice and they may not know other people and it's overwhelming. There's a lot going on. And like, I do not want, I don't want them to be unacknowledged, you know, and like, it's just convicting that is really important, even though it's hard sometimes because you want to go to convention or leaders retreat or whatever and just like hang out with your husband. Or, you know, maybe just me and McKenna because we've been in it the longest and we're the most comfortable around each other. But I thought what he said was convicting about like walking slowly through the crowd and that what you're doing there is so, so, so important. And I know it is. But sometimes it's a burden. Sometimes it's hard. Like I went to Springfield for Sonia Dudley and a teammate's mom was there and so the mom is on our team and doesn't know anyone. And it's people like that where I'm like, I know I need to find that person and connect with that person, but I don't even know that person. I'm having to like, what is she wearing? What, you know, like you'd so much rather just settle in with your table and be laughing and talking with the people that you know instead of scanning the room for someone's mom. It's a responsibility, you know?
Yeah.
Well, they said whoever it was, one of the military people, I mentioned several, yeah, didn't even sleep like before big like fighting days, big battles, because he would go and visit everyone.
Yep. Yeah. There's even a book called Leaders Eat Last, and I'm sure that's the same concept.
I really liked that thing. That like made me want to cry. Like I wrote to the Southwest person. I was like, you're connecting on the emotional level.
I know.
When he minimized it to lead yourself, use your head. To lead others, use your heart.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, whoa.
Yeah.
Just for like, if I'm gonna have one focus here, it's not gonna be what's logical or what I have evidence for or whatever. It's going to be connecting on an emotional level. When I take care of myself, yeah, I need to be a business person. I need to know numbers. I need to have goals. I need to set out a timeline. But when I am working with other people, it needs to be about the heart, matters of the heart. That was eye-opening to me.
Yeah. And he does say you start there. You start by making a connection, and then you progress to helping with the.
Especially, well, yeah, it's the initial connection, because after that, hopefully, they become. You used your head a little more with your teammates too.
Let's see. What are some good ways? We've got just a few minutes left. Like, what are some good ways that you feel like help you connect with people? Like, for example, I wrote down that a smile is something a lot of people forget. Partly because when we're talking to people about plexus, we are nervous. So this was something at my very first convention that Al Schreider talked about, where he was just like, even a baby trusts somebody who smiles. Like that is just, it is like caveman biology in your brain. You just trust people who smile at you. And so I'm like always trying to point that out. Like if you're making a video, if you're leading a team call, if you're talking to someone, you go to coffee with them, like don't forget to smile. Because there's like just a trigger that the brain's like, I trust this person.
Yeah.
Another one I listed is finding common ground. So no matter who you're interacting with, very quickly in your very first impression, remarking about something you agree on. So he gave the example of like, if you're at Old Navy checking out and you're like, man, don't you wish it were Friday already? Like immediately finding something you both agree on was something he.
And when he talked about focusing on others, not yourself, how that immediately, you'll connect faster if you focus on somebody else instead of yourself.
Yeah.
Asking about them and what they care about.
Yeah, it's such a turnoff when you're trying to have a conversation and someone just keeps talking about himself.
I think compliments are good too.
Yeah.
Like complimenting, asking questions, about what's going on in their life. Sorry, I'm making notes.
And I highlighted when he talked about compliments, he said, nothing's more effective than sincere, accurate praise, and nothing's more lame than a cookie cutter compliment. Because that's easy to do.
Yeah.
Takes a little more intention.
Yeah.
Okay. We've got less than a minute. So I think we all agreed that we could do one more next week, right? Before Christmas? Okay, cool. So we'll do next week 11 and 12. And we'll talk on our thread about who wants to lead.
Good. Thanks for leading.
Yeah, I'm loving doing this with you guys. It's super eye-opening. And we're to the point in the book that I haven't read either. So it's new for all of us.
Halfway through almost.
Yeah. And I really hope everyone will duplicate this with some people on their team too. I'm just going to keep going through my team when I have time to do it. So, okay. Happy Sunday evening, you guys.
You too. See ya.
Yeah.